Perhaps it's fate that today is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Looks like a stormtrooper, doesn't it? This is the all-new Kia Sorento. It's actually, like Star Wars, has already had a trilogy of its own. The first generation, it was pretty good. The second generation was really good and proved really popular here in the Philippines. The third generation, well, maybe it was overambitious. Kia, with the fourth generation one, aims to reset that. But I mean, look at it. In terms of design, you know what? In keeping with our Star Wars theme, it really does look like a stormtrooper helmet, especially with the visor and with the lower bumper. And this black thing here, it reminds me of the new trilogy, the stormtroopers there. But really, I do like the look of this. It does remind me of the Kia Optima. And of course, it does have this tiger nose grille right there. I believe the second generation Sorento was one of the first vehicles in the Kia lineup to feature that design element, that new signature that they pioneered back then. But also, something to note here, I think this is the first time we're seeing the new Kia logo on a vehicle in the Philippine market. So from the side, it really does look like an SUV. I mean, with the black trim there, the proportions of the vehicle, the 19-inch wheels, and of course, the 5-door SUV/wagon form factor. Couple things to keep in mind here. This new vehicle is 30 millimeters longer than before. It's also 10 millimeters wider. They even stretched out the wheelbase by around 35 millimeters. So it's a bigger vehicle overall. But there's something worthy to note. It's actually lower than before. The roof line is lower by about 60 millimeters compared to the previous model. Even the ground clearance, they actually lowered it a little bit by 9 millimeters because the ground clearance of this is only 176. I think Kia was going for a more Mazda-like design when it comes to the proportions of their vehicle. But hey, it does look good. Look at the tailgate, the taillights, the bumper, including the use of satin finish for the Kia logo, the new Kia logo, as well as the Sorento nameplate right there. Now, to pop open the tailgate, you can use either your key or the little button right over there, and that gives you access to the rear cargo area. In this configuration with all seats up, it's 15 inches from here to there and about 43 inches wide. But then you can start playing around with the interior space of the Sorento. And in this configuration, it expands to 42 inches from here to the back of the second row and 42 inches wide between the wheel arches. But here's the nice bit about this. They have two buttons right here. Press that, and then that, and the second row 60-40 split goes down. In this configuration, the space expands to around 69 inches from here all the way to the supported part, to the folded part of the second row. Now, what else can we say about the rear area? Well, for one, you've got multiple tie-down points. You've also got AC vents in the third row, the AC controls right there, button, 12-volt outlet, cup holders. Something I do want to point out, though, if you're sitting in the third row, it can be a bit tight because, well, it's really more for kids. So the third row of the Kia Sorento we've already discussed, but there's one thing that's really important here, and that's getting in and out. There are actually two buttons here to fold down this rear seat so you can get into the third row. One is actually right up here, one is right down here, but they do exactly the same thing. When you press it, it goes down, slides forward. Now, keep in mind that the space for getting in and out is not going to be that great because even the way this is fully forward, it's only about right there. So you really have to step into it to get back there. So that's why we really mostly recommend it more for kids. Definitely not for bigger adults. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. Another thing here though is that the way this folds to give you the space for the fold flat configuration is that you pull that and then see the cushion, see how the cushion goes. Similar to what happens with, let's say, the HR-V and all the other Hondas, the cushion goes down to the floor just a little bit to give you a nice flat load space all the way to the very back. So you got AC vents right here, 12-volt outlet, USB port, cup holder, power window, the wood trim here, which by the way is one of the nicer wood trims we've seen in the class. The nice backrest here. There are USB ports, surprisingly, right here on the rear seats, on the backrest. So if you want to charge and have it right up here, you can. There are no pockets here where you can put it apart from the main pocket right there. One of the more interesting bits here in the second row is the focus on making this more of an executive vehicle. And they do that by having this control panel for the seat right here, similar to the Camry. So if you're sitting in this seat and you have a chauffeur right there, he can move this seat full forward and tilt it all the way forward to give you maximum legroom. So the interior of the Sorento, it seems a bit busy, but the more you spend time in it, the more you start to like a few things. I mean, the dashboard, definitely very interesting. Dual screens, the usual touch screen right here. This one is not touch screen, so don't touch that. Steering wheel with the new Kia logo, the new buttons, it looks really nice. It is a bit big when it comes to steering wheels, but that's okay. It does really look good. Some of the more unique things here, particularly with the AC vents, because it's got the top vent that you can adjust, and it's got a lower vent for your, well, I don't know, knee or hand, whatever the case may be. Useful. Seat heaters there on the left and the right, or seat coolers. So either way you go, I mean, we don't really use the seat warmer function here, but the coolers, very, very useful in our kind of weather. There are a lot of things going on here. Shifter, your gear selector right here for the dual clutch. You have PRND and then the manual mode on the left side, which is good for left-hand drive. So when you go to that, then you have features here, the drive modes. Now, this is the interesting one because if you flip it to comfort, there's that, and then eco, the colors change. Same with sport, the colors change. And with smart, the colors change as well, which is nice. You have a heated steering wheel. Again, we don't really use that in the Philippines, but if you ever find the reason to use it, it's there. Auto brake hold, electronic parking brake, hill descent control, the 360 camera right there with the multiple views. So the rear view, the rear quarter left, rear quarter right, rear, so on and so forth. There's a lot to play with in this vehicle. And by the way, this one has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and you can neatly plug into the USB port right here and then store your phone here. By the way, there's also a wireless charger there, but I can store my phone even with the cable plugged in right under there with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto activated. How cool is that? Let's go check out what's under the engine bay of this Kia Sorento. So here's the engine bay of the all-new Sorento. I mean, it's a 2.2-liter turbo diesel, and it's got an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, driving the front wheels. Yes, it's front-wheel drive only. There is no all-wheel drive. Now, in terms of performance, this turbo diesel, and I say turbo diesel because there's a turbo right there in the back, it makes 202 horsepower and 441 Newton meters of torque. It's one of the best outputs vis-a-vis the displacement of the engine compared to many out there. Looking around the engine bay, what else do we see? I mean, engine mounts, normal stuff, turbo, of course, ABS control there, the usual fluids and stuff. But there's something interesting happening on that side. Let's take a look. And here's something I don't see too often in a lot of cars. Actually, I think it's the first time I've ever noticed this. It's the air filter box and what Kia did to make it so much easier. Because to replace the filter, you just pull this tab. You don't have to unclip anything. And then you just lower down these locks there. And then you can pull your air filter. I mean, they even recess this to make it pull straight out. That's pretty cool, and it's still pretty fresh. That is something very, very intuitive and very considerate to those who like to do a lot of DIY. But something that is easy to miss in the engine bay of the Sorento are the considerations and the engineering that Kia put in to make it handle better. Because if you look at the shock towers of the vehicle, like this one and that one, now, in many tuner cars, performance cars, they have a strut bar connecting the two to make it handle better. In this one, it's built right in. If you look there, it's actually welded right into the shock towers. It means less flexing, better handling. Let's go out and drive it and see if that's true. So I've had the Sorento for a few days now, and there's actually a lot to like about this car from Kia. I mean, the design, I've already told you, I really love the design of this. Then there's the interior, and then there's the feature package. But after spending a few days with it, there are some things that jump out at you. For one, it's the ride. Now, granted, if you're on asphalt and it's smooth, the ride is great. But when you're on concrete or bumpy asphalt, like right now, you do feel a bit more of it. Because I think Kia was trying to come up with something that drives better, let's say, when you're going around the mountain bend or going on an excursion, that kind of thing. It feels composed when you're driving fast, but the trade-off there is in the city, it can feel a bit more bumpy than others. Not too much, but a bit more than you would expect. But as a cruiser, the Sorento is really nice. I mean, the damping once the road gets a bit better is quite good. That's a rumble strip, felt very gentle. Once you get onto the highway, then the Sorento kind of comes into its own. Because the way the car cruises, it's just really nice. I mean, the transmission is smooth, the engine, the diesel engine, it's quiet. And when it comes to fuel economy, actually that's where this vehicle excels. I mean, in the city earlier, I was doing around 11 kilometers per liter, average speed of around 18 kilometers per hour. That's pretty slow for my normal driving. When the speeds go up, the fuel economy also goes up. I was getting around 13 when it was at an average of 22 kilometers per hour. Of course, on the highway, it gets even better because in this vehicle, I was easily getting 19.5 kilometers per liter on the expressway. The first thing that really popped to me when I drove this were the signals. Because if you signal left or if you signal right, a camera display will pop up either on the speedometer or on the tachometer of the lane you're trying to get into. It's similar to what Honda does with their, I think they call it lane watch, where a display comes up on the main screen when you signal right, but only for the right, not for the left. This one does both. It's a nice system and definitely very, very useful. There really are a lot of things to discuss with the Kia Sorento because there are a lot of features in the car. But what we really want to talk about are some of the decisions that Kia made for the vehicle. Not just for the Philippine market, but overall. But first for the Philippine market. I mean, this is a top-of-the-line model. It does not come with adaptive cruise control, just regular cruise control. Which is kind of strange because they already gave it a system where it will try to maintain you in your lane. And they also didn't put in the panoramic sunroof, which is kind of expected for the price point of this. But what I think is far more important to talk about is what the Sorento is trying to be. Now, if you notice, in the last few minutes, I've been referring to the Sorento as car, not SUV. Now, granted, this is a crossover, meaning it's supposed to be half and half, meaning it's got a platform of a car, and also the ride and manners of a car, but it's also supposed to have qualities of an SUV, like the versatility, the space, but most importantly, at least for us anyway, in the Philippine market, the height. Like right now, well, this vehicle passing me now on my left, it's an Isuzu D-Max, and I feel like I'm riding a sedan next to him. I've got more vehicles. I mean, that's actually what I've been feeling in the last couple of days, that I'm driving a low-riding vehicle, which is unusual because that's kind of expected in the Philippine market. When you buy a crossover here, Innova, yeah, I feel like a sedan next to him, even though he's got all those Borloloy, chrome on his vehicle. He's another Innova. Yeah, it's like I'm driving a low-riding vehicle next to even an Innova. Now, whether it's ride height, ground clearance, or the commanding driving position, that is what you expect in any SUV, particularly a Sorento. People do expect height out of their vehicle. Now, is that a deal breaker? Well, for that, let's discuss it over at our warehouse. What's important to consider with any crossover is to think of it like a spectrum. On one side, you have the car-like qualities. On the other side, you have the SUV-like qualities, because that's what it's supposed to be. Kind of the best of both worlds right in the middle. Now, what some car makers do, they try to dial in more of one or less of the other to achieve what they want to achieve with that certain model. Some want to go for more SUV, so they dial it that way, gives you the extra height, gives you the extra bulk, but you sacrifice some of the car-like qualities. Now, some go for the car-like qualities, sacrificing the SUV qualities, but they get better road holding, better handling, and that is definitely the case for the Kia Sorento. The real thing here, though, is the pricing. Because in the last 15 or so years, the pricing of the Sorento has really shot up. When they first sold the Sorento here, I think it was around 1.3 million, thereabouts. The second generation was closer to 1.8, but in top spec trim, the predecessor of this was at 2.3. This particular version, the front wheel drive without the panoramic glass roof, it's already at 2.6 million. Now, I don't have to say that there are a lot of options in that price range already. If we're talking about more or less direct competitors, you can look at the Subaru Evoltis, which has all-wheel drive, panoramic glass roof. You can also look at the Mazda CX-9, which is also a lot bigger than this, but in the same price range. You can even look at the PPV class, the 4x4s. Fortuner, Montero Sport, Terra, and MU-X, those vehicles are going to be much more affordable than this and offering the many SUV qualities that we in developing markets like. But still, the Sorento, it's a good vehicle. It's up to you or whether you like it or not. So let us know in the comments below what you think about the all-new Sorento and how it fits in the Philippine auto market. This is Vince of AutoIndustriya.com.